that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wanna hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 508th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. I'm going to put the sign up. And Tom is in the flesh, not in the studio. We've heard that excuse before. Today is the 2nd of February 2023. It is Groundhog's Day. And we're going to be starting this show with news from the 26th of January. But before we do, I have to make appeals for cash. What do we do with our cash, Tom?
This is the commercial now.
This is the commercial. We don't have commercials. We just have appeals for cash. Tom doesn't make any money on this show. I don't make any money on this show. Between us, with including the blog that I post every day and from which the show is derived, between us, we're probably putting in 60 hours a week. We don't make anything. This is a labor of love, and it's not of love of doing the show so much as it is of love of human beings and a desire to make sure that the world be a place where people can have fun and enjoy their lives in the future. And we're trying to do what we can about energy and climate change. And
well, I put in a lot of time, but you put in a lot.
I put a lot of time. Yeah, Tom puts in a lot of time. I put in a lot of time. Anyway, we're not asking for money for ourselves. We're asking for donations to BrattleBoroTV.org, BCTV as it's called. And you can go to BrattleBoroTV.org and make donations on the website. It's
a community asset, you know.
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
right.
It's a good asset.
Absolutely, it is. It's a good asset. This show is downloaded by about 40 TV stations in the United States. It's something that has a certain level of popularity.
We received a comment once from England.
We've had comments from England and from Scotland and other parts of the world. And the reason for that is because the show is available on YouTube, which means that it's available in various countries. Yeah, basically, I don't know about Iran or China, and I'm pretty sure it's not available in North Korea, but nevertheless, it's available in a lot of places. And it's working to try to limit our addiction to fossil fuels, or eliminate. And so we'll ask you to go to BrattleBoroTV.org, make a donation, and when you do, please leave a message saying that this is for support of Energy Week. And that'll be a great help. BCTV spends a lot of money supporting this show, and it's all from donations and so forth. So we're doing our part to try to draw some of that to BCTV. So, Tom, you ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay, one other thing I should say is if you want to read the articles that we're talking about, you can either go to geoharvey.com, which is my blog, and click on the date. We will try to keep you apprised of the dates that are being used. Or you can go to or download a file which is listed down below on the screen, and you can go down and get that so that you will get just the articles we're talking about, because the blog has about 15 articles usually a day.
Yeah, 3 a day.
And we talk about 3. Okay, we're going to start.
Well, let's just say this. Some of these articles are well worth looking at.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are very long, very informative.
Some of them are pretty long.
Makes sense to look them up.
The last article in this show, Tom, do you know what I mean? The last article in this show, the FERC projection for the future of addition of electricity generating capacity in the United States?
Yeah.
You know the one I mean.
Well, I look at the last article.
Yeah.
Let me pull
It
it
comes
up.
from Green Energy Times.
Let me pull it up.
It's an article that I wrote.
Big returns to coal in Europe.
What's that?
Big return to coal in Europe.
No.
That's the last. Oh, that's not the last article. The last article is the decline and fall of fossil fuels.
That's the one. And that, I think, is important.
It comes from Green Energy Times.
Yes, and it was written by me.
Yeah.
Ah,
How about that?
there are people who actually publish the stuff I write. Okay, our first article is from Clean Technica.
I'm backing up to the
You're
first
backing
article.
up. It has a picture of an electric bus that was made in Kenya.
They're coming along quite rapidly, aren't they?
They are indeed.
They're about ready to enter the 20th century.
Yes, and that is happening faster than the United States is, which is kind of alarming, but nevertheless, there it is.
Well, let's talk about we got a picture of the bus up there, right?
Yes, we do.
And it says Kenya is producing its first electric buses.
Yep, from Clean Technica. Kenya's Basigo is a perfect example of how quickly things can happen. Established in May of 2021, so it's not even 2 years old, Basigo sealed partnerships with several banks in Kenya. It just announced a partnership with Associated Vehicle Assemblers to make 1,000 electric buses in Kenya over the next 3 years.
That's a lot of buses.
It would make it a big bus manufacturer for the United States, but this happens to be in Kenya, which has a slightly smaller population. And so this is a big deal for Kenya.
It is that.
Yeah, should we go on?
They said they're coming into the 20th century. We're in the 21st century now.
Well, maybe they're getting ahead of us.
Well, coming along with 1,000 electric buses is a giant leap forward.
Absolutely it is. Okay, our next article is from CNN. We have a picture of a coal-burning power plant. I'll put that
It
up.
looks like a smokestack.
That is a smokestack. Those very thick smokestacks, generally speaking, are thick because they have scrubbers in them that are designed to remove particulate matter. And also things like sulfurous acid, sulfur dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, and so forth. They want to eliminate that. And of course, the closer you get to getting to a point where people can survive in the neighborhood, the more expensive it gets for electricity.
If you watch our show, you know that it's rapidly coming to a place everywhere where you can't burn coal anymore.
Yes, absolutely. This is from CNN.
Coal-burning power plant, that's the picture of it.
Yep.
EPA plans to stop 6 power plants from dumping toxic coal ash into unlined ponds.
Yes.
It's about time.
Yeah, it's about time. The EPA announced it plans to stop 6 coal-burning power plants from continuing to dump coal ash into unlined ponds. The agency announced last year, yes, that it would begin to enforce the Obama-era regulations requiring coal-fired plants to clean up their waste. And if I may comment, we're going to touch on coal again in this show, and my bet is these 6 plants are just going to shut down. That's
I wouldn't bet against that, boy. That's for sure.
Okay, should we move on, Tom?
Can't dance.
We have a picture here of hydrogen storage. I should say a rather boring picture. This article is from Renews.
Foresight backs 100 megawatt German electrolyzer project.
Right. Foresight, through its managed funds, is to invest a 100 megawatt green hydrogen project in Germany. 2 Foresight funds, HH2E and Hydrogen One Capital Growth, are developing the project located in Borna, Saxony. It will
Saxony is a part of Germany.
Saxony is one of the German states, yes. it will produce about 6,000 tons of hydrogen per year to start with.
Well, any kid who's had a chemistry set when they were growing up knows what electrolysis is.
Yes.
And this is just that exact same thing, except scaled up 1,000 times.
It's I think more than 1,000.
Maybe more than 1,000.
Yeah, we tried hydrogen when I was a kid. It didn't work.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, my brother didn't really understand how electrolysis worked, so he tried doing things in a kind of a strange way. Okay, we are to New York City, and we have a picture of New York City.
It looks like New York City.
It sure does. Where is that picture taken from, Tom?
Well, it's taken from Queens, from Astoria, I think.
Okay. I was going to say...
that tall building there is the World Trade Center.
Right.
The new World Trade Center.
Well, if that's the new World Trade Center, I would think this would be from New Jersey.
And I think it's from Queens.
Okay. You know New York better than I do. This is from BP. What do you got for a title?
Could be from northwestern Brooklyn.
Okay.
Well, Equinox and BP bid for a third New York offshore wind solicitation.
Equinor and BP today jointly, and of course today is not today, today is that day, whenever that was, jointly bid into New York's third offshore wind solicitation, building on strong commitments to deliver renewable energy to New Yorkers, to create sustainable jobs, boost the economy across the state, and support a just transition to renewable energy. And that just transition part, we keep seeing this in the news, and I think I'm going to write an article about why that's necessary, because just transition, yes, that's important. Everybody should. Why? Why is it so important? How are you going to go to some yahoo who is interested only in his own fossil fuel powered monster truck and tell him that we should have a just transition? Well, people should understand this. To deal with fossil fuels, everybody has to be enabled. Everybody. So we have to bring everybody along.
Everybody.
Yeah. And that means a just transition is a requirement, not something that's nice. Okay, you got more on that, Tom?
Well, you hit the stuff I highlighted for myself. So
okay, good.
Let's move along.
Okay, let's move along. We have a picture of a cornfield and a wind turbine. I think it's a cornfield.
Looks like corn.
Yeah.
Jordan Creek Wind Farm.
Yes.
I only see one wind turbine though.
Well, you know, if you're at the edge of the wind farm looking out, you're probably only going to see one turbine. This is from Power Engineering.
NextEra commissioned 5 gigawatts of renewables and storage to 2022. UPS growth plan.
Yes. NextEra Energy, the parent company of Florida Power and Light and the largest developer of clean energy in the United States, said it deployed 5,000 megawatts. That's 5 gigawatts.
Gigawatts is gigawatts.
Yeah,
baby.
absolutely. I agree with that one. Of renewable energy resources and energy storage in 2022, while adding 8,000 megawatts, that is to say 8 gigawatts, to projects in its pipeline. And
oh, they're getting on board.
What's that?
They're getting on board.
They are. And one thing to bear in mind here, we've talked about NextEra in the past.
Several times.
A bunch of times. And one thing that they have said is recently, probably 6 months ago, I don't remember, they basically put out their plan for where they're going to go in the future. And what they're saying is no coal, no oil, no natural gas, no nuclear. Everything is going to be renewable. This is a company that owns and operates 7 nuclear power plants. Not a small company. But the problem is, if you want inexpensive electricity, you get it from renewables.
renewables nowadays.
That's basically the only choice, and we will get back to that at the end of this show. Okay.
Good.
What's that?
Good.
Good. Okay, we have a picture of Grant Lake. I'm not sure where Grant Lake is, to tell you the truth,
I looked that one up. I didn't look it up.
It is in California someplace. I don't remember. Oh, Grant, no, it's in California someplace. I did a look up on a canal, but that's different. Okay, this is CNN.
How California's recent flooding could set the stage for a dangerous wildfire season.
Yeah. Weather.
That's something we really got to worry about.
Yes, it is. And it's not something, you would think that with all the rain that they got, wildfire season, it's going to be
not a chance, huh?
Yeah, not a chance. There's too much water. Weather has swung from droughts to floods, but Californians know the pendulum could abruptly swing the other way again. If moisture doesn't stick around and the heat sets in, winter's rain and snow could prime the landscape for an intense wildfire season. Should we explain why, Tom?
Yeah.
Basically, what it comes down to is you get those rains, every seed in sight is going to try to establish itself for its life so it can make new seeds. That means you get a lot of plants growing because of that rain.
Yeah, right.
Then
we got the water.
If it dries out, you got a lot of new growth that's just ready to burn.
Yep.
So the rain could make the fire season the next summer worse than not having the rain.
That's a good explanation.
We need more rain in California. By the way, I went to the drought monitor, and I don't remember it precisely, but if you do a Google search on drought monitor, you'll get the address. It seems to me that it is drought.unl, which is University of Nebraska at Lincoln, .edu. But if you go to the drought monitor, if that is the right place, you can see the map. And basically right now, California has much improved in the last few weeks in terms of drought, where a couple of weeks ago, there were large areas of the state that were in exceptional or extreme drought. Today, none of it is in exceptional or extreme drought. 30% of it or more is in severe drought, but most of California is just abnormally dry or in a mild drought. But most of it, 90% of it, is in drought. There's no getting around that.
That picture of Grant Lake.
Yeah?
That's in drought.
That is in drought. That picture isn't new, though. So anyway, we should probably move on.
Why not?
Okay. We have a picture of wind turbines.
Well, we're up to Saturday, January 28th.
Thank you for saying that, Tom. I had forgotten. We have a picture of wind turbines. Jason Blackeye, by the way, I don't know much about him, but he does put a bunch of pictures of wind turbines and a few other things on Unsplash. I think he likes wind turbines. He likes photographing them. This is from Down to Earth.
At $1.1 trillion, renewable energy investment matches fossil fuels in 2022 for the first time.
For the first time.
Ain't going to be the last time.
Yeah. For the very first time in history, investment in low-carbon energy technologies worldwide was equal to money spent on fossil fuels. Global strategic research service provider Bloomberg NEF said $1.1 trillion was invested in cleaner energy technology in 2022. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
$1.1 trillion, more than I got.
It's more than I think the two of us put together. But it isn't enough. We have to come up with something like $150 trillion in the next 35 years. That's a lot of money.
You're telling me.
Yeah, but one thing that's good about this is This isn't investment in just new stuff that's going to be coming online, because a lot of that investment would go into fossil fuels because the plants have to be replaced. And what's
Well,
going...
they need the power. They got to get it somewhere.
That's right. The old plants, as they get replaced, don't have to be replaced with fossil fuels anymore. So you know, spending $5 trillion a year, well, we would be spending that even if we weren't moving to renewables.
Well, in the not too distant future, they're going to look back and they laugh. Can you imagine those people used to pay for fuel?
Yeah, I think they probably will. Okay, we have a picture of the Ravenswood generating station. Do you know that station, Tom?
I know that station, and it doesn't look like that anymore.
I suppose.
They took that power plant down 10 years ago.
Well, there it is anyway. This is from Informed Comment.
Well, the island didn't go away. It's really not an island, but it looks like it. It's all full of batteries now.
Yeah. What do you got for a title?
30 fossil power plants in Queens to become green energy hubs. That's exactly what's happening.
Yes. Rise Light and Power, LLC, announced that it will invest in an offshore wind facility so as to turn its Ravenwood generating station in Queens, New York City's largest fossil fuel plant, into a clean energy hub. So where that big plant you see was sitting is going to become a place for batteries. How much batteries?
They're there.
Yeah, well, they're not all there. A 1.3 gigawatt offshore wind farm would power batteries at Ravenswood. So they're building more as time goes on.
Well, a 1.3 gigawatt offshore wind farm, pretty damn large.
It's large, yes.
Pretty large too.
Yes. And by the way, I want to mention one thing about batteries. There is a term FIRMED, F-I-R-M-E-D, that is coming up from time to time. So you hear about firmed...
That word.
Huh?
I haven't heard that word.
Okay, you're going to hear about it, Tom. You're going to hear about firmed solar and firmed wind. And what the word firmed means is that the renewable energy that we're talking about is backed up by a sufficiently large battery that the energy is dispatchable 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As least,
very good. That's one of the criticisms of
right,
renewable.
And it has to be at least as reliable as nuclear power to be considered firmed.
Okay.
And one of the things that's interesting, and I will go into this probably at some point in the future, is that firmed electricity from renewables is more reliable and of higher quality than the electricity from coal or nuclear.
That's interesting.
And the reason, well, just think about it. Nuclear power is going to put out the power that it generates 24/7. That's what baseload power is.
Bingo.
But baseload power only covers the base load, which is the lowest demand load. That's why it's called baseload. That's right. Which means you've got to have other kinds of plants, load following plants and peaker plants in addition. The problem is
very expensive.
Not only are they expensive, but you have to have they take time. So if the load changes, if the demand changes, which it does constantly, it'll take 15 minutes for some power plants to switch the output so that they can follow that load. With firm solar, huh?
There was a lot of static there. I don't think it's me.
Well, it might be my beard hitting my microphone. I'll try to.
It doesn't sound like that, but forget it. It's stopped.
Okay. The firmed solar, the batteries will change output instantly. There is actually a time, but the time that it takes to change to follow the demand is less than one cycle of the 60 cycle per second AC power.
I was going to say microseconds. So.
It's microseconds, and that's what it is. Okay, let's go on. Okay, Tom?
Get this.
Okay. We have a picture of Tongass National Forest and an article from Clean Technica.
And I quote, Biden-Harris administration finalizes protections for the Tongass National Forest, which, by the way, is in southeastern Alaska.
Right. The United States Department of Agriculture finalized protections for the Tongass National Forest, the world's largest intact temperate rainforest. That's important. That's what we're protecting. USDA's final rule repeals the 2020 Alaska roadless rule and restores long-standing protections to 9.37 million acres of Alaska.
It needs protections.
It needs protections. Everything needs protections, Tom. I got news for you. We're up to Sunday, January 29th.
And we see a picture of a school bus.
Now, tell me about that school bus. What do you see on that school bus?
Well, it's not what I see, it's what I don't see.
What don't you see?
A grill.
There is no grill on that bus. Now, this picture was probably taken in New York City. Do you think it's possible that somebody stole the grill, Tom?
In New York City, that's possible.
I knew a guy who was driving in New York City on one of the, I think it might have been the, I don't know, it was one of the expressways, and his car had a flat tire. So he got out of the car and he started fixing the flat tire. He jacked up the front of the car so he could fix it.
I know what you're going to say.
And all of a sudden, the back end of the car was being jacked up. And there were a couple of guys who wanted to steal the tires. They were incensed that he wouldn't let them steal the tires. He was being greedy. They wouldn't go away until he actually produced the paperwork showing that the car was his.
Wow.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica. What have you got for a title?
Electric school buses can fight inequity in the USA. Or worsen it.
Yes, they can make it better or they can make it worse. Most students, especially those from low-income communities of color, ride diesel-powered buses that expose them to health issues. Electric school buses... They make a
lot of noise, too.
Yeah, they do. Electric school buses offer a solution, but they can actually deepen inequities if programs aren't designed and deployed properly. And I want to point out, if we don't give these kids electric school buses, we're not dealing with climate change. In order to deal with...
Electric school buses are natural.
Yeah, they are.
They're a perfect match.
They're a perfect match. But in order to deal with climate change, we gotta make sure everybody is given what they need.
Well, one of the problems, and this was maybe from the article, it says that the low-income communities don't own their own buses.
That's right. Thank you for mentioning that.
So they don't get any help from this.
Yeah, the Inflation Reduction Act says that they have to specify which bus they're replacing. Well, they don't have a bus, so how are they going to replace it to get the incentive?
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. We have a picture of a bunch of steam. How about that?
Well, we got a geothermal plant.
That's right. And this is from the Manila Times. And with the name Kiwi, I would think it's from New Zealand, but it ain't. It's from the Philippines.
Asia's first steam field continues to power homes.
Asia's first commercial scale geothermal steam field was discovered 50 years ago in Tiwi, a small town in Philippine province of Albay. It is still providing clean, renewable energy to 2.7 million homes. Geothermal is the biggest industry in Tiwi and a major source of local employment.
Okay.
Okay. All right, should we go on?
Yes, as I've already said.
What are
Let me get
these?
some pictures of wind turbines again.
Oh, thank you for telling me, Tom. This is from the Midland Reporter Telegram. Midland, by the way, is a town in Texas.
Oh, it is, huh?
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, Permian set to lead BP Energy's low-carbon renewables efforts, and I'll explain what Permian is in a second or two.
Okay, BP plans to sell $25 billion in oil and gas assets to fund its renewables business. The company is not completely through with oil and gas, and in fact, it sees significant contributions from shale assets. But it has set a goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2050.
Well, the Permian Basin is located in the southwestern part of the U.S.,
Yes.
including parts of California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico.
Oh, I
It
thought.
contains large quantities of oil and gas, but
Yes.
they're not always easily accessible.
Yeah, I had
And
thought.
one of the things that's happening is they're trying fracking, and they're getting very, very poor results out of that. Like they expect, they're getting about 30% of what they're expecting.
Well, we could have told them that. They should have watched our show.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, we're up to Monday, January 30th, and we have an article from The Guardian.
And we got another picture of wind farm.
We have a lot of picture of wind turbines, don't we?
U.S. renewable energy farms outstrip 99% of coal plants economically. Why am I not surprised?
Well, you and I are not surprised, but there are people who are really surprised by this. Coal in the United States is now being economically outmatched by renewables to the point that it's more costly for 99% of the country's coal-fired power plants to keep running than it is to build entirely new solar or wind energy operations nearby. This is according to an analysis. The article is from the Guardian. And basically what it comes down to is there are 210 coal-burning power plants in the United States. And out of all those coal-burning power plants, only one produces electricity sufficiently economically that it wouldn't be more economical to shut the plant down and replace it with firmed solar or firmed wind.
Well, that actually is happening in places.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, what kind of future does coal have? Well, you know, there is such a thing as throwing good money after bad. And at some point, the people who own these plants are going to say, this isn't a stranded asset anymore. It's a stranded anchor.
Well, to this quote, Bill Clinton, it's the economics, stupid.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly correct. Okay, next, should we go on?
Might as well.
Oh, wind turbines. Where did they come from?
Those wind turbines.
Yeah, this is from Clean
Cheaper by the
Technica.
dozen.
What?
Cheaper by the dozen.
Cheaper by the dozen. This is from Clean Technica. What do you got for a title?
King Charles, newest eco-activism. Royal Wind Farm profits will go to the people.
Every time I see the name King Charles,
He's the new King of England.
that's right, but I find it kind of, it rubs me the wrong way, to tell you the truth. I mean, I remember when Elizabeth was crowned. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you remember when King George VI was king?
I don't.
I don't. You know, Elizabeth was on the throne for a very long time, and as little kids, we were not paying a lot of attention to world news. And, you know, I've studied history. I know who he was. I know what his picture looks like. But, you know, I know what the picture of Louis Mountbatten looks like, too. This is from, oh, you read the title, didn't you? King Charles III announced that an expected surge in profits from wind farm deals that could have elevated royal investment accounts should instead be spent on the public. A spokesperson said the kings wished a windfall to be redirected, quote, for the wider public good, end quote.
it's going to take for everybody to start calling him King Charlie.
King Charlie?
Yeah,
I think there are probably people who already do.
I'm sure there are.
Okay, should we go on, Tom?
Yeah, I think we should. We've whipped that one.
Okay, we have a picture now of a battery bank from Form Energy. And the article is from WJON.
Well, it looks like we got solar panels in the back.
Yep.
And a whole mess of batteries.
And wind turbines, too. And
there's wind turbines, too, sure.
Yeah, they have very conveniently left a large part of the roof off of this picture so we could see what's inside.
Excel to test power storage tech in Becker.
Excel
By the way,
Energy.
Becker is part of Poland, Maine.
Okay. Excel Energy is bringing state-of-the-art storage technology to Sherco Power plant in Becker. Excel Energy has partnered with Form Energy, an American technology company, to deploy an iron-air battery system at the Sherco plant. The plant's capacity will be 10 megawatts and 1,000 megawatt hours.
That's not a giant size.
The 10 megawatts, you know, is only a tenth of the big battery that was put 5 years ago in South Australia. But the 1,000 megawatt hours is 8 times as big as that battery. And this thing is a prototype, a 1,000 megawatt hour prototype. So it's only going to give you 10 megawatts, but you can run it for 1,000 hours. And on top of everything else, Form Energy says these plants will be able to deliver energy that they have stored at a cost of about half a cent per kilowatt hour, and that is
Wow.
by the end of this decade. So if the solar plants around are delivering power at are delivering electricity at 2 cents per kilowatt hour, this thing will bring it up to 2.5. And anybody who's going to compete with that, whether it's coal or gas or nuclear,
Can't be done.
what?
Can't be done.
It can't be done. Nuclear power is not going to come anywhere near that. The nuclear power, the best estimates that I've seen for the cost of nuclear power from these new nuclear generators is 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So they're more than 4 times as expensive. It's just, we're in a different world. People have to think differently. And this is firmed power, so it is as reliable and more reliable and better than what you would get out of nuclear with its standard backup stuff. Okay, I am going.
They are changing.
Yeah, they are. We're up to Tuesday, January 31st, and we have a picture of a solar farm.
Pretty big one.
That's a big one, and that is in Spain, as I recall.
I don't know.
This is from Renews. What do you got for a title?
Solar and wind produce record fifth of the European Union's power.
According to the European Electricity Review, published by energy think tank Ember, wind and solar generated over a fifth. Now, this is wind and solar. It does not include hydro. Over a fifth, 22% of EU electricity in 2022. For the first time overtaking fossil gas, which was 20%, the coal power share increased by 1.5 percentage points to generate 16% of EU electricity in 2022. Thank you, Russia.
I said that coal power actually increased.
The coal power increased, and the reason for that was because the Russians were fooling around with the gas market, preventing people from getting the gas that they needed to be warm, make electricity, whatever. So, you know, the Russian interference in the market is actually why
Now you're really starting to break up.
Okay. I don't know what is it.
I don't know if you're moving or not. I don't think it's mine because there's no wires involved.
I heard a couple of clicks. That's all I heard. Okay.
Let's keep moving. I'll try to understand you.
Okay.
We got a picture of some duckweed.
We have a picture of duckweed. We do. It's true.
U.S. government funding helps biofuels move forward.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica, and I've got a few comments on this. A lot of people are not going to recognize this. These leaves that you see, the individual leaves, are tiny. In some duckweed plants, they are so tiny you can barely see them. Duckweed is the smallest flower-bearing plant in the world.
I'll be darned.
But it grows at an astonishing rate if there's fertility in the water. So if you put a few duckweed plants into a pond and the pond's got a lot of fertility, they'll overrun the pond in a couple of weeks, the whole thing.
Oh, they're covering the entire pond.
Yeah, and let me read the synopsis.
I've seen that stuff.
Yeah, it's very green. You can see it from here. If you see water that looks like it's covered with green algae, very often it is duckweed. Biofuels may not be the ideal way to address climate change, but they can help reduce our carbon emissions. Two pieces in the news in recent weeks show that the U.S. government is still trying to help biofuels improve, come from cleaner sources, and work better with infrastructure. One thing that I want to mention is that duckweed is used in some parts of the world as food for human beings.
Okay.
Yeah. It's called duckweed because ducks love it. But they're not the only things. You have a pond, it gets covered with duckweed. If there's any fish in there, they will eat it all as fast as they possibly can. And duckweed is really interesting stuff.
I've seen it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
On a per square meter basis, you can get more protein out of duckweed than you can out of soybeans.
Wow.
This is impressive stuff. People should be looking into it. It's considered nutrition for poor people in Southeast Asia, but it's being raised in places like Israel and served to people as a food source, and people don't object to it. It doesn't taste bad. Okay, should we go on?
I imagine a lot of it goes to feed animals.
Oh, you can feed fish with this if you've got fish in if you've got an aquaculture thing going on. Duckweed is great food for the fish. The fish just love it. And
I would say cattle, personally. But,
what's that? Cattle?
Yeah.
I think cattle would do very, very well with it. A lot of animals would do very well with it. Obviously, ducks. And, I'm very fond of ducks. And when I eat eggs, it's duck eggs.
Oh.
Yeah, they're very rich. And they have really, really big yolks. And the yolks don't break easily when you crack the eggs.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Okay, we have a picture here of Stockholm. I'm sorry, Trondheim.
It says Trondheim, yes.
It is Trondheim.
A little story behind that. In fact, I don't know how many years ago, there was a group called the Hanseatic League. It was a trade association of merchants. And they built something just like this almost all over Europe.
Yeah.
I can remember being in Bergen, Norway, and seeing, well, it's for all intents and purposes identical to this picture.
Yeah. The Hanseatic League was almost like it had its own navy.
Oh, yes, it did.
Yeah, it was a big organization. It had to be suppressed by various European monarchies because it got too powerful. Anyway.
It was powerful, too.
This is from Clean Technica. What do you got for a title?
Norway discovers a huge trove of metals, minerals, and rare earth on its seabed.
Yes, and I was mistaken. By the way, this is from CNN. A Norwegian study found a substantial amount of metals and minerals ranging from copper to rare earths on the seabed of its extended continental shelf, according to authorities. These resources are in high demand for the role they will play in the transition to a greener economy. So, here is, by the way, rare earths.
I just discovered this. I'm sure there's deposits like this all over the
Oh, I have no doubt of it, Tom. I used to work with rare earths in my youth, and I worked with more gadolinium. I know chemists who have never seen a sample of gadolinium, of any gadolinium compound. And I used to handle the stuff by the ton. And rare earths, I know a little bit about. They are not rare in terms of the amount of them that they are on the Earth. They are called rare earths because they were so hard to separate from each other. They are nearly identical in their chemistry, so it's not easy to separate them.
Well, if you look at a list of the elements,
yeah,
the rare earths are all in a separate section.
More or less, yeah, more or less. Kind of in the middle of, well, when I think of a periodic table, they're kind of in the middle of the table. And there's a lot of them. I think there's 17. I don't remember.
Something like that. That's about right.
Yeah. Okay. We are up to Wednesday, February 1st, and we have an article from The Hill and a picture of something that very few people will recognize in the future. This is what's called a gas station. And in the future, there won't be any gas stations. But that won't happen tomorrow.
No, it's going to take a little while, but you're all right.
Yep. So this is...
Exxon announces record profits for 2022.
Yep, this is from The Hill.
They're not hurt.
Yeah, this is from The Hill. ExxonMobil announced record profits for the year 2022, reporting that it made, this is the net profits, $55.7 billion over the past year, and in the process of announcing that, drawing ire from the left. The major energy companies also posted, other major energy companies also posted record profits for the year. Democrats in the United States have been critical of corporate profits at a time when consumers faced high prices. And this is something that just happens over and over and over again. Oil companies don't make money when demand is low and supply is high. Consumers get the gas at the pump at a cheap price when that happens. Yeah. When the price goes...
It's the opposite, actually.
Huh?
It's the opposite for the consumers and the companies.
Yeah, exactly. When the oil companies are making huge profits, such as what Exxon announced, the consumers pay for those, and they don't get anything special in exchange. If the prices were more or less constant, consumers wouldn't have paid this. Exxon wouldn't have made that kind of money. And there are politicians who are saying this whole system is wrong. There's something wrong here.
I can believe that.
I am kind of inclined to believe it too. The idea, and one thing I should point out was, Exxon did not do anything unusual to make the record profits. It would have made profits if it did the usual stuff and nothing else happened, but it didn't do anything unusual to make record profits. What was unusual was that Russia invaded Ukraine, and because of that, Exxon made out like, you know, there it is. They are profiting off the bodies of dead people.
Sounds like they are.
And they're taking their money from American consumers in the process. Does this sound like a business plan that you want to support?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay.
I'm looking at that picture. That's a nice sky.
Yeah, I'm going to put up the next picture, which is a solar array, and this next article comes from Sky News.
Big returns to coal in Europe, killed off by record renewable energy.
All right. This is why there wasn't a huge increase. It was only 1.5% that we talked about a moment ago. There wasn't a huge increase in the amount of coal being burned in Europe, even though the Russians cut off a lot of gas. Why? Here it is. As Russia cut off gas supplies to Europe last year, countries put more coal power on standby to fill the gaps. But the bloc fended off a feared dramatic increase in burning coal, the most polluting fossil fuel, by installing large amounts of solar and wind generating capacity. So, there you have it.
Bingo.
Bingo. This is why there
It's the
wasn't.
economics, stupid.
It's the economics, but it's, you know, you put in more renewables, you don't have to burn more coal. It's that simple. People are dying because you're burning coal. Well, there's a good reason to put in renewables so people don't get killed. And by the way, reports that I've seen, and these are from places like MIT, say that the really clean air we have in Vermont is dirty enough to kill about 300 people a year. That's not mostly from coal, though. That's mostly from burning gasoline and diesel oil in our cars.
Is it really?
Yeah, unfortunately. We've got good reason to get rid of those cars. Okay.
Well, it is happening, but it's happening slowly.
Too slowly. It should
Too
happen.
slowly, really.
It should happen quicker. Okay, our last item, and we have a picture of a wind farm in Iowa, which comes from the Voice of America. Isn't that a nice picture? I like the sky. I'm one of those people who enjoys cloudy weather and storms and things like that. Okay, this is from Green Energy Times, and as I mentioned earlier, I wrote it myself.
This is it. Oh, yeah, you wrote it yourself, didn't you?
I did indeed.
It's an interesting title, The Decline and Fall of Fossil Fuels.
Yes. The latest projections from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission say natural gas capacity will not grow in the U.S. in the near term. Fossil fuels were in decline overall, but now no part of fossil fuels or nuclear is projected to grow in the next 3 years. So approximately 100% of net generating capacity growth up until 2026 is expected to be made up of renewables.
Oh, again, it's the economy.
Well, you know, the thing is, this FERC report that appeared, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, CNN reported on it, Clean Technica reported on it, BBC reported on it. The first report that comes out on FERC is from an organization called the Sunday Campaign. And if you get onto their mailing list, you know, you get the emails in when they appear. Every single one of their announcements looks like the last one. And I think that they have a form that they fill in and just release that. And the form has material that comes from the FERC projections, which they release every month. And what happened was I was looking at this because of an article that was coming up in Green Energy Times, and I was looking at the article. The article was basically a reprint of the FERC article. And, you know, I look at future articles on Green Energy Times as the publication is put together. And I looked at this and I thought, wait a minute, there's something about this that nobody reported. And it's true. Nobody, as far as I knew, had reported it. So I decided I was going to report it myself and put it up at the Green Energy Times website, which of course meant that I could, because my blog only takes news that comes from news media. So in order for it to be in my blog, it has to be at a website. Well, Green Energy Times put it up on its website, so, you know, I could put it in my blog. Very handy. Basically, the thing that everybody seems to have missed is that if the FERC report is correct, that means 100% of our net generating capacity growth is going to be renewables. They're projecting a decline in nuclear, not a big decline, 2 reactors coming online, I think three being retired. It's basically a wash. It's a slight...
Well, you can't build a new nuclear plant.
What's that?
You can't even attempt to build a new nuclear plant.
Not anymore. And, you know, there are places that...
overruns are tremendous.
Yeah. There are places where they're talking about building these NuScale and other small modular reactors, and the numbers from them are not better than the numbers from the traditional nuclear industry. And they argue that they are, but they really aren't. Anyway, one of the things that I want to make clear about this, because it happens to be true, is that the FERC report is produced by an organization that has 5 places that are filled. FERC is bigger than 5, but the commission has 5 seats, and those 5 seats are filled by presidential appointment. Now, these reports that appeared saying that 100%, very likely 100% of the capacity being net capacity change in the next 3 years will be from the addition of renewable energy.
Renewables are getting cheaper.
Yeah, that
Every
report.
day, they're getting a little bit more efficient, a little bit cheaper.
Yep, that report was produced by a FERC board that has 4 members. There's 1 vacant seat, and all 4 members were appointed by Donald Trump.
Huh.
This is not a political statement on the part of the left. This is a statement by Trump appointees.
That's interesting.
Now, I want to explain one thing. Coal capacity is in decline. No new coal plants are have come online for years, so plants are retiring. That's pure retirement. When you come to, there's a small amount of activity with oil, but the total capacity is in decline. 3 years ago, there was a whole lot of natural gas generating capacity being added. And that amount exceeded the capacity of those plants, exceeded the capacity of coal that was retiring. So 3 years ago, fossil fuel capacity was still growing. 2 years ago, overall growth stopped because natural gas had come to a point where its net growth, that is to say its new capacity minus its retiring capacity, was not greater than the capacity lost by coal. But we've gone to a new point now. And the new point is natural gas plants are still being brought online, but not in any amount that is greater than the capacity of natural gas plants that are being retired, which means natural gas is now in a period of decline. Coal is...
As we look at the prices of renewables,
Yeah,
they're getting cheaper and cheaper every day.
that's right.
Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, but it's happening.
That's right. It is happening. Now, that is our last piece of news. So it is time to put up our last slide, which says, have a sensationally nice week. How about that, Tom? You ready for a sensationally nice week? You going to be able to stay warm tomorrow?
Oh, it's warm where I live.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to have to walk up from Elliott Street to Canal Street tomorrow when it's probably below 10 degrees. So I'm going to dress in my quilted overalls, which are designed to be good to below 30 below zero, or 230 below zero.
Quilted overalls, huh?
Quilted overalls, that's what I've got.
That was good
Okay,
to me.
we will wave goodbye. Say it, Tom.
Welcome back and see us now, you hear?
I knew that's what you were going to say. Thank you very much for saying